10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Greetings, my fellow low-sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Sunday, November 9th, 2025. Is episode 1916, American Free Press issue 45 and 46, 2025. Before I proceed, you can find me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Look Your Luck number 3, Look Your Luck Roman number 3 with the eyes. I almost said three eyes a couple times there. Sorry about that. Or the Look Your Luck Roman number 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, and all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use the core. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash.app/Look Your Luck number 3. Yes, I am lackadaisical on my Steam account, so bear with me. I make a living too. It's not one of them, for goodness sakes. So, hey, I have a day job. That's how it goes. Hey, but I'm all right by it. Oh my goodness, I love seeing people posting stuff of mom and dummy, or mom and daddy, mundaddy, or mum dummy. Yeah, like Joey Pepperoni has to say about that. So all you folks out there that was mocking him and trying to say we're using selective racism, no, this is how we see it.
I am Muslim.
You are a globalist puppet.
I am a democratic socialist.
You are New World Order certified.
I refuse to apologize for any of this.
You refuse to admit it's all political theater. If you thought New York City was cooked before, just wait till this guy's done. He's about to churn it into a microwaved Hot Pocket. All right, New York, give it up for yourselves. You just elected Mama Dummy, the only guy who promises free everything. You wanted free bus rides? No problem. Hope you like your commute, because there's a camera on every pothole now. But seriously, people act like this is about left or right, religion or progress. Nah, this is politics on Broadway. All theatrics, no justice. But instead of freedom, you get a social credit score lower than your Uber rating. And voting? The real ballot box is your browser history. Half of you probably got a toaster that's voting against you. If Mama Dummy was really for the people, he'd be exposing the circus, not backstage handing out digital ankle bracelets. That's why I'm done with politics. It's all theatrics. The House always wins, and the people just get stuck with the bill and a free subscription to Government Plus. So open your eyes, New York. You didn't vote for freedom. You just unlocked the cage with better Wi-Fi. At least now your smart fridge can rat you out when you're out of milk. Thank you. Don't forget to tip your digital waiter on the way out.
You can't even buy shit in the store because of your low social credit score.
I am Muslim.
Well, what can we say, right? The truth hurts. This is why, when it comes to politics, I'm very vigilant. I'm not lovey-dovey with any forms of government. Never trust them, according to our Declaration of Independence in the United States. But the folks in that area, I heard some of the interviews and all that good stuff. They just say, I am part of the Jim Jones Jamboree. Wear my cowbell to represent walking antimatter. But one thing I know for sure is just wondering how the other 51 council members of that jurisdiction will endorse his cause, his vision. Like if seizing landlord property, will they compensate him for these people? Eminent domain, yeah, it's in their state constitution. So remember, I'm a butt boy. I please follow the hype. That's how you gotta look at these guys. He's just another clown, a glamour boy that he should be part of a photo of promoting Palmolive soap. Now I digress. So that's just one area, but we all know for sure, folks, there's lots of insanity is happening And the conditions that are going on in New York City is occurring everywhere in large metropolitan communities. And many of us say they could be graveyards. So please, folks, prepare yourselves, decentralize. I know I've been stressing this on my shows for years. It is essential to do that. No bitching, no complaining. You have to take action. In other words, even with the political realm, don't complain, engage. Let them know who's boss. Because sometimes I've done it, especially on a local level. I don't care what they think. It's just the people that are listening, the voters, the bosses of those communities. Those are the ones I focus on. And you should too. Well, enough of that. I'm just actually improvising here. So I was checking on my subscriptions. So I may be reading some multiple articles. I don't know how long this is gonna be, but I'm just winging it as I speak. And his one here came from American Free Press. Came out, supposed to come out today, but I'm a subscriber. I hope everyone encourage it. I will put this on the link so you can check it out for yourselves. This is interesting here from the staff of AFP, Epstein, an Israeli asset. Last spring, over 100,000 emails from former Prime Minister Ehud Barak's personal inbox were leaked by a group known as Distributed Denial of Service, the organization widely believed to be the successor to WikiLeaks. To this day, the actual hackers' identities remain unknown, but is widely believed that the government of Iran played a part. Interesting there. Remember, they have their, secret societies in that nation as well. Just to let you folks know, it's nothing new under the sun. And I'm going to see right here. And since then, journalists have pored over the treasure of trove of emails, which included communications from 2007 to 2016 with the richest men in the world, as well as top government officials. One particularly controversial figure, convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, stood out in multiple emails, and when reporters dug into those, what they found gave even more credence to the charge that Epstein, even after his conviction of sex crimes, has worked as an intelligence asset for the Israeli government. Among the thousands of emails to business associates, foreign dignitaries, and friends that were dozens of Barak and Epstein. One of these even referenced Epstein's infamous gift organized by Ghislaine Maxwell that had billionaires and top U.S. politicians like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump celebrating Epstein's apparent predilection for underage girls. More shocking were the correspondence between Barak and Epstein that revealed, among other things, a scheme to try to turn the Russians against Syria and topple the government of Bashar al-Assad. Libertarian magazine Reason first broke the hacked email story over the summer, but since then, not a single major U.S. media outlet has taken it up, most likely because it proves the convicted sex offender had close personal and business ties to Barak, who throughout his lifetime had served in Israel as head of military intelligence, the defense minister, and even the prime minister. According to Reason, a number of key emails provided details on Epstein's business partnership with Barak in 2015, when the two worked together to create an international security firm called Reporting Homeland Security, while Reason claimed that Epstein was just using Barak to seek out opportunities. A more careful look at the email showed that it was Barak who asked Epstein for help to secure, for example, meetings with top foreign officials, including even a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Interesting, right? So keep on going here. On October 30th, left-wing news website Dropsite took a step further, publishing an article titled Epstein and the Mossad, How The sex trafficker helped Israel build back a channel to Russia amid Syrian civil war. In it, journalists Ryan Grimm and Murtaza Hussein wrote, the trove of emails exchanged at the height of the Syrian civil war between 2013 and 2016 reveal Epstein's successful efforts to secure a private meeting between Barak and Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss a Russian-brokered end to the conflict, including winning Russian support for negotiated removal of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Yeah, can we say all hail to the Club of Rome? Woo! Absolutely. While the government of Israel was not specifically cited in any of these exchanges, Dropsite noted Epstein's and Barak's efforts reflected official Israeli policy at the time, which was sow divisions between Russia, Iran, and Syria and take down Israel's perceived enemies. Dropsite concluded that the revealing email exchange showed how Epstein used elite networks and quasi-official institutions to promote Israeli security interests and enrich his circle of friends and companions. Hey, who could have enemies when he got some of those great totalitarian friends, right? Hey, sometimes people ask me about these left-right newspapers and websites and all that. Not all of them are bad. You know, you got your clowns from both sides, and you got the ones that are damn good. And like as times I'll check out Mint Free Press. I like Whitney Webb's articles and content. I admire it. Even Truth Out, Observe Responsibly. I like to read the Epoch Times at times, all that stuff too. But I don't go, oh yeah, they say so. I don't go on the cheerleading squad. Okay, I don't just follow the hype. I just examine how accurate is the information and all that. And don't be surprised. This is why Epstein is part of the whole global network as well. So there's other clowns in the political world. So that's why they want to expose, use, and abuse. Right? One big Sodom and Gomorrah cesspool, you can say. It's just really not surprised at all. And many of us out there have been following it for years. There's people who've done a better job and did it longer, and even ones that got murdered for it. I gotta say this, my friend, about the Aquarian age, that people are waking up left like never before. And I remember some people telling me, like with the Muslims who are trying to rule the West, they're nothing. That mindset is nothing more than chess pieces to the technocratic system. They all try to get the one world government by fighting amongst each other. Remember, the Alawites don't think like the Sunnis or the Wahhabis. In Saudi Arabia, the Shiites are treated like garbage. Okay, so it's nothing really new. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot trust the system, period, because you got all these totalitarian hacks in here. That's around the world. Never trust the government. Remember, they slaughtered at least 107 million people on a genocide scale and democide about 240 million estimate. So I'm going to be, hold on for a moment. I got to turn something off. So, yeah, it was a little chilly in here this morning, but, you know, I do manage. But very interesting, right? So something to really look at on that. And let me see here. This one came here from the check this out. Populism, not plutocracy. Plutocracy is the wave of the future. Election day in 2025 in Virginia, where I live, was a disaster for Republicans. They got what we call a down-home country whipping. Not only did former CIA desk jockey Abigail Spanberger take the governor's seat, Ghazali Hashmi won the Virginia lieutenant governor's race, become the first Muslim woman elected statewide, a sign of changing times in Old Dominion and the nation. So interesting. So all you folks, oh yeah, the Team Blue won in Virginia. Yeah, you got a CIA desk jockey in there. So all you folks out there trying to worship her, you may be under surveillance when she gets there. If I had been in there before she got in there. Let that sink in. All right. So become the first Muslim elected worldwide, says the Change the Nation, scariest of us all, called Jared J.C. Corey J. Jones, is our new Attorney General. As you probably heard, Jones, according to the Virginian Pilot and the Richmond Times-Dispatch, fantasized in text conversations with former Republican delegate Kerry Corner about killing GOP House Speaker Todd Gilbert and his family, the newspapers reported. If I had 2 bullets and could shoot Gilbert, Hitler, or Pol Pot, Hitler get 2 bullets to the head. Jones acknowledged that he have talked about hoping Gilbert's children would die because only when people feel pain, personally, do they move on policy, before describing Gilbert and his wife as evil and breeding little fascists. Can we say projection, Mr. Jones? I know one thing, you may hate yourself, you disgusting, ungrateful maggot. If that's the case, you're nothing more than a degenerate, and the N-word fits you well on your ethics, not your skin color. And I digress. Continue on here. Needless to say, conservatives are a little antsy about having Jones as a top law enforcement official in the state. Through Democrats didn't seem to have any problems with it, brushing off the comments as youthful and pretentious. If I end up with 2 bullets in my head, you know where to look. Interestingly, post-election polls reveal that 67% of those votes voted for Spanberger, did so as a vote against Donald Trump, not because they particularly like her. That's pathetic. Delusional, one-dimensional. I hate Trump, I will vote for a tyrant. Yeah, I'll continue on here. That statistic alone does not bode well for Republicans in the upcoming 2026 midterms. The hatred of Donald Trump has now crossed party lines. It appears through 9% of Virginia counties still cast their vote for Republican candidates for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. Almost every red county saw gains in Democratic vote tallies. In the end, the Democrats won delegate seats in the counties that were thought to have been unflipped. But let's be honest, the GOP got what was coming to it. As populist American First Representative Thomas Massie, Republican from Kentucky, commented after the election, to avoid a repeat of last night's shell-lacking in the upcoming 2020 midterms, Republicans should quit covering for pedophiles, put America before Israel, put farmers before corporations, quit funding wars abroad, reduce spending to control inflation, and quit attacking independent voices. Damn straight. To all you neocon maggots out there in the GOP, you're just like Spanberger. You look, think, and smell crappy, including Jones, too. They think alike and smell the same. You established cucks out there got what was coming. Remember, when it's red or blue, my friends, always prepare to get screwed. That's how I see things, but I'll continue on. The most important issue on the minds of voters, according to the polls, was the economy, rising costs, inflation, unaffordable health care, and super expensive housing. Trump made some pretty big promises on the campaign trail, vowing that he could take care of all these problems before the clock struck midnight at his first day in office. Though inflation is not an astronomical level, it was during the Joe Biden years, it is still a concern. Fully 65% of consumers are currently living paycheck to paycheck, and insurance costs could be soaring to the point where bankruptcy for many Americans may be a real possibility. Outstanding credit card balances rose by $27 billion during the second quarter of 2025 into a total of $1.21 trillion. Additionally, according to CNN Business website, the percentage of subprime borrowers who are at least 60 days late on their car loans has doubled since 2021 to 6.43%, according to Fitch Ratings. That's worse than during the past 3 recessions, during the COVID pandemic, the Great Recession, or the dot-com bust. America's current subprime delinquency rate is at its second highest level since the early 1990s. Cars are being repossessed at the highest rate since the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009. So you see, people are desperate and will turn anyone offering solutions. The hence of the Ugandan-born neo-Marxist Zoran Madami in New York City, and the blue wave that recently struck Virginia. Trump, when asked about this, responded, as did Biden, on his foggiest of days, insisting the economy was great, energy prices were down, and the stock market was soaring. He was evidently vacationing in Mar-a-Lago land, and optics matter. Even as voters were turning to the Democrats to save them from penury, Trump was tweeting out pictures of the lavish White House bathroom remodel and photos of his great Gatsby-themed Halloween party attended by upper crust sycophants who mingled around what can only be the best be described as a stripper in an oversized martini glass. It was all quite garnish and an apt metaphor for the stark disconnect between the plutocracy and the holy-poly, i.e. the common horde. Populist political strategist Steve Bannon, in an interview with Politico, had his advice for Trump and the Republicans should they want to avoid being wiped out in 2026 by slick mom and daddy-like candidates who he predicts will be popping up across the nation. Tonight should be a wake-up call to the populist nationalist movement. Under Trump, there should be even more than alarm bells. There should be flashing red lights all over. The official Republican Party just want to tap Trump along and then be done with him. Be done with MAGA and get back to what they want to do. Neocon, neoliberal. Other words, the status quo. I've said for a while, populism is a wave of the future. The managed decline of our country by the elites is the basic undertone of what this kind of political revolution the country has been. The two parties, Democrat and Republican, don't really matter. The energy is in the populist right and what I will call the neo-Marxist left. It's time for the GOP to get on the populist bandwagon or step aside. What can we say about that? Absolutely. This is why I always tell folks, again and again, don't be a faction slave, but a sentry, a sentinel, a watcher, an engager. I can say this too with our private central banking system, a la Federal Reserve, with their fiat currency since 1971, print money out of thin air. It's going to hell in the handbasket now, right? And of course, with the whole COVID stimulus packages and all that, and people, oh yeah, I got money now. Let's go out flying to go on vacation in Florida and live on it's on the beach. So people don't know how to think. I'm not surprised everything's been going up because all this, it's the same old song and dance. It happened in many countries, including Venezuela, even though I'm not lovey-dovey with Maduro or Chavez or their government down there as well. But the private central banking system has been an issue for everyone, regardless of your political belief system. But many folks want to point the fingers. They can't even look at themselves or don't read, don't want to pay attention. All they want to hear is all the bobbleheads out there, the beakers, or what's on social media, and they all jump on that hook, line, and sinker. There's a claim, too. I remember I was claiming about Mama Di is not going to refuse to do his oath of office, be installed on January 1st. And that spread like fire, but we all know, too, it was a hoax. So you don't get everyone triggered. So that's why I always tell people that. And here's the thing, too. In Virginia, you got your Bill of Rights and the Virginia Resolution of 1798. You can give those goofballs the big middle finger. They're not liberty-minded. They're totalitarian crap bags of wind. And Jonesy, he cursed himself. He made it gray real quick. Don't get angry with them. Mock them. Ridicule them. Get them all. Yippee, yappy, hood. Mock them all. Because here's the thing, Virginia. You got a lot more power than those goofballs in there think. They want you to beg and complain. And there's plenty of and Virginia's a pretty state. Okay, I've been there. And according to the poll maps, it's mainly most of the people who vote for these goofballs are in some near Charlottesville, Richmond, Arlington, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. The rest of them vote the opposite. Always got to be vigilant, never trust the government. But here's the thing. You got the Bill of Rights, your Bill of Rights, Commonwealth. I don't hear, oh, well, the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law. Shut up. I don't want to hear the incorporation doctrine, hyperbole, or rhetoric. You got your Bill of Rights, okay, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and its resolution of 1798. Learn it, love it, live it, engage it. All right, so I'm just improvising still as usual. I want to try to hit. I may be out here for a little while. Let's hit another article here. Unexplosive. Okay, let's see here. News you may have missed. I'll go a couple here. Who's America's first? The pro-Israel wing of the Republican Party is in a complete meltdown as more and more conservative sides with American First voice like Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon, who recognize we need to part ways with Israel. On November 1st, stridently pro-Israel commentator Mark Levin told the Republican Jewish Coalition Summit in Las Vegas that politicians who won't condemn Carson and others like him need to be afraid of us. I'm sorry. That's like, well, you know, my voice is more masculine than yours. I'm Mark Levin. I'm going to continue on here. I'm sorry, folks. That was good. The problem for Israel First is like Levin and Ben Shapiro, the Gino twins, I call them, is that Republicans finally are turning against them. In an interview with comedian Dave Smith on November 1st, Carlson fired back saying, these guys are not the future, and that's why they're freaking out. Yeah, the information war has exploded. And it was interesting because I remember even those other factions you have to agree with, including subversified groups, they warned us about Israel and the Zionist movement for years, and they still want to call them anti-Semitic, like the newspaper, the Truth at Last was from the Ku Klux Klan, and the National Alliance. I'm not, saying I'm praising these publications by any means or organizations, but sometimes they throw a little merit in there, so we always got to go a little further, because I always questioned their actions many years ago. There's really the government themselves, not the people. Now look what's been happening. They want the Netanyahu regime out in Israel. Okay, they can't stand this man. All right, that's why people still question October 7th, including yours truly. And there's people I know who served the IDF saying the same thing. That being anti-Semitic? No, that's juvenile. They're using the same old song and dance, blah blah blah. That's all they're good at. Because remember, they're unmerited hacks. Hey, if they want to call you a racist or they're going to call you anti-Semite, ask them, hey, when Ginos become anti-Semites, then we'll talk. But I'll continue on here. Signs of trouble. According to the data released by the Federal Reserve last month, the top 10% of the U.S. population now do half of the total U.S. consumer spending. That percentage has been steadily increasing since the early 1990s, when the richest Americans accounted for only 25% of total U.S. spending. People are trying to save their money. Decline in society. Conservative news website Washington Examiner reports that an estimate 1.4 million American women aged 18 to 24 have an account on a pornographic website. OnlyFans represent approximately 40% of the U.S. women in that age group. OnlyFans allows women to post pornographic photographs and videos of themselves and sell them to men who make around 75% of the consumer base of OnlyFans. Yes, and I do see that a lot. And, sometimes I don't go ape over these things myself, so I just ignore it. Sometimes I just ignore it. I don't need it. And don't worry, as I say, I'm attracted to certain women. Yeah. I'm very hard to please, but but something like this is like, wow. Sometimes that's what happens when when you got the state involved too, and mind control. That's good. Those are good examples. And supply and demand, because a lot of them can't have good relationships. You got folks they use their luxuries, their luxury demands as necessities, and that's what's been happening for a very long time. I'll continue on here. Questionable pardon. It says here, According to the Wall Street Journal, earlier this year, multi-million-dollar crypto company Binance took steps that helped launch the Trump family's new cryptocurrency, promoting it and helping to increase its market capitalization from $127 million to over $2.1 billion. In September, the Journal reported that President Trump granted a pardon to C.E. Zaho, the founder of Binance. In 2023, the company was fined and banned from the U.S. for violating anti-money laundering laws. Zaho ultimately spent months in prison for related crimes, that including turning a blind eye to pedophiles, using Binance to facilitate the purchase of child pornography. When asked about the pardon on 60 Minutes, Trump said he didn't know who Zaho is. So there's a claim on that. And I'm going to see here. Youth and cancer. Rising cancer rates among young people in the United States has been an issue for the last decade. On October 27th, the Washington Post focused on the 6 leading states for corn production: Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois, Minnesota, Indiana, and Kansas, where the cancer rate for young people has skyrocketed. The Post notes that rates for young adults in the 20s, 30s, and 40s have been trending up, as overall cancer rates are on the decline. Today, young adults in those 6 states have significantly higher rates for several cancers, especially kidney and skin cancers. While no states have confirmed this speculation is that long-term exposure to all the chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides that are used to grow corn have been leaching into the soil and drinking water, leading to an increased cancer rates. And that is absolutely correct. I'm going to see here. Lion pedophile. Former Israeli soldier Rabbi Yitzhak Mir Sabo, who now lives in Texas, was arrested in Dallas recently on charges of child sex abuse. Sabo became famous on the internet for spreading false claims about Hamas's rape atrocities of Israelis. Now it looks like Sabo will be the one to go on in American jail for raping boys. Interesting there. So a lot of projection. You always got to pay attention to these. And I'll do one here. Palestinian abuse. Last February, 6 Israeli soldiers at the Sadi Timan desert prison camp were arrested for raping a Palestinian male prisoner so badly it was caused rectal injury. After the video of the assault was, leaked on the internet, the soldiers were briefly detained and then released, but not before Israeli government officials protested, claiming the prisoner was Hamas, so he deserved it. Now, even that story has fallen apart. Israeli Daily Haaretz reported on November 3rd that on September 3rd, the Palestinian man was quietly released back into Gaza before anyone in the Israeli government could be bothered to get his testimony for the upcoming trial of the soldiers. Unexploded bombs. According to the UN, there are 60,000 tons of unexploded bombs lying all around Gaza. Overall murder. On October 27th, the New York Times reported after Shireen Abu Akleh, a celebrated Palestinian American journalist, was fatally shot in the West Bank in 2022. The State Department delivered an equivocal assessment. While shots fired from Israeli military positions were likely responsible, it said, American officials found no reason to believe that this was intentional. Recently, Colonel Steve Gabavix, who retired, came forward to dispute the Biden administration's findings, saying he was punished for objecting to the official statement. Gabavix had served in the Army as a military policeman for 30 years and even worked at Guantanamo Bay. Gabavix said he and few other investigators had been tasked while investigating Akleh's murder. Gabavix said the team concluded the shooting had to be intentional, but they were overruled. Police overreaction. Retired police officer Larry Bushhart Jr. was recently released from jail in Lexington, Tennessee after spending a month behind bars. His crime? He was arrested by Perry County Sheriff Nick Weems and charged with making online threats for trolling public interest forums, and that included online memorial for conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who was murdered in September. Saying many things. On October 27, 10 people went on trial in Paris accused of harassing French First Lady Brigitte Macron. By posting mean things about her on the internet, individuals reportedly spread malicious comments about the biological sex of French President Emmanuel Macron's wife, saying she is a man. The claim is that Mrs. Macron was born a male and her real name is Jean-Michel Trogneau. Mrs. Macron's maiden name is Trogneau, but her brother's name is Jean-Michel. According to Tristan Bromett, the chief of staff to Mrs. Macron. The trial comes after Macron and his wife filed a defamation lawsuit in Delaware against podcaster Candace Owens over similar claims. Look, these are claims. It's free speech. Deal with it. I know in the French Constitution, they do the same thing. It's called free speech. All you got to do is look it up and read. Good grief. Everyone gets their crotch hurts on these things, you know? Or not, be better yet, have them challenge them to a duel, right? Oh, man. I know that. So let me see here. I'll hit this page here. America's disappearing cattle ranchers. Multinational slaughterhouses make a fortune. Cattlemen go broke. This is by Jose Nino. America's independent cattle ranchers are vanishing at an alarming rate, and the consequences extend far beyond rural communities, according to Republican RCAF USA, which is Ranchers Cattlemen Action Legal Fund, United Stockgrows of America. American ranchers are vanishing at a record rate. Nearly 107,000 beef cattle farms and ranches have been lost in 5 years, over 21,000 a year. The 2022 Census of Agriculture by the Department of Agriculture confirms this crisis, documenting that the United States has lost nearly 107 beef cattle farms and ranches between 2017 and 2022. This represents an average loss of over 21,000 operations per year. Even more troubling, this alarm trend formed part of a longer decline, with more than 665,000 beef cattle operations disappearing since 1980. The census reveals additional concerning details about the scope of this consolidation. The American cattle herd has shrunk to its smallest size since 1951, with only 88 million head remaining as of 2022, down 6% from 2017. The beef cattle herd specifically declined to 29.2 million head, representing an 8% reduction and the loss of 2.5 million animals. The number of farms involved with the cattle production decreased by 17% during this year period. More recent shows the crisis continuing unabated. As of January 1st, 2025, the U.S. cattle inventory stood at just 86.7 million head, the smallest since 1951. Multiple factors are driving this perfect storm, devastating America's ranching industry. Corporate consolidation and meat packing stands out, and perhaps the most significant threat, the beef packing industry has become extraordinarily concentrated. According to the report by the American Prospect, 4 global companies, Tyson, JBS, Kergel, and National Beef, now control 85% of the fed cattle market. Live cattle that have been fattened in a feedlot to a specific weight and are ready for slaughter. This consolidation gives these multinational corporations enormous power to set prices paid to ranchers, creating what economists call a monopsony. Excuse me. It's the first time I pronounced that word. Forgive me, right? Where buyers have outsized influence over sellers. The financial impact on ranchers has been significant. Since 2015, cattle prices paid ranchers have decreased by 35%, while retail beef prices increased 36%, allowing the big 4 packers to dramatically expand their profit margins. Ranchers find themselves squeezed between rising input costs and stagnant or declining prices for their cattle. Ranchers now receive less than 30 cents of every retail beef dollar spent by consumers, representing a historic low. Meanwhile, packers' profit have soared to record levels. Environmental challenges compound the economic pressures facing ranchers. Prolonged drought conditions beginning in the mid-2020 have significantly impacted cattle operations, particularly in the Great Plains and Western states. As per January 2023 report by the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, drought reduces hay production by approximately 12% for every one unit increase in drought severity, while increasing hay prices by 5% per drought severity unit. This forces ranchers to liquidate herds when they cannot afford to feed their cattle, accelerating the decline in cattle numbers. Rising production costs squeeze ranchers from another angle. Cattle ranchers face some of the narrowest profit margins in agriculture while dealing with escalating costs across every put. Feed costs, fuel, labor, veterinary care, equipment, and land expenses have all surged in recent years. Production expenses for beef farming operations average $72,345 per farm in 2022, while cattle feedlot expenses average over $3.4 million. According to the projections, interest payments on farm debt are expected to reach $33.1 billion across agriculture in 2025, roughly 7% of all costs. International competition adds yet another challenge. Beef and cattle imports have significantly undercut domestic producers in recent years. In 2024, total beef imports, including beef from imported cattle, reached a record 6.38 billion pounds, constituting approximately 22% of domestic consumption. By 2025, imports are projected to exceed 5.2 billion pounds. The accelerating loss of cattle ranches poses a risk to U.S. food security and national security, as RCAF USA CEO Bill Bullard noted. We are fast centralizing our production supply chains for beef and lamb, making them much more vulnerable to disease, climate, and geopolitical events. When a handful of multinational corporations control most of the beef processing, any disruption to their operations, whether from disease, natural disaster, cyber attack, or international conflict, can rapidly cascade through the entire food system. The consolidation also threatens rural communities across America, particularly in the western states, where cattle ranching provides jobs, supports service industries and mainstream businesses, and sustains schools, hospitals, and churches. With more than half of all beef cattle farms and ranches that existed in 1980 now gone, entirely rural economies are being hollowed out. Small towns that once thrived with the economic activity generated by surrounding ranches now struggling to maintain basic services as their tax base and population decline. Without policy changes to the playing field for independent ranchers, the trend will likely continue until American beef production exists only in the hands of a very few multinational corporations. And that is very dangerous, folks, and I have to agree with Mr. Nino on that. That's why I said in the very beginning of this episode, and I've been saying and address it consistently, we need more decentralization, think and act locally. I'm not saying it's easy, but those are ideas that if everything collapses, we can still strive. And this is going on everywhere, okay? Globalism, all that is all the same. And this is why people got to look at things in a bigger picture. Truth of the matter is, many of us here may have political differences, but we want to see things better, see our lives better. And I talk to a lot of folks. Doesn't matter what their views are. And if a person like myself, hey, I don't have anything fancy, but I'm very thankful. And I'm not in huge major debt. I'm paying up. Mine is minor. I've been very blessed, and everything's paid for. So I got no complaints. I could get more, it'd be great, but I've seen this coming for a very long time. And this is why we need to be more vigilant than ever before. We cannot play, hey, you're entitled. No. Because I see this going on for years. And I remember my teenage life, younger years, I see people in that realm of materialism. A lot of it was drug money. Got everything big and fancy. Then when everything dried up, a good amount of people I know were hurting, or they had to actually change course. So that's why I always say decentralization has always been dangerous. And we all need to start looking at that a lot bigger than what it is. Be neighborly the best you can, folks. Let me see. I might just hit a few more here. See what mood I'm in. There's one. No, I already did that from Rubio. Who cares? He's just a glam boy. No. I'll do one here on foreign intervention. Let me see what I can do here. Boom, boom. Yeah, it says here, Washington prepares for yet another war. Build up against Venezuela accelerates. Sorry about that. It's written by Phil Giraldi. A recent story of the South America reveals how U.S. foreign policy has been quite plausibly perverted by special interests in spite of Trump's administration claim that is guided by MAGA Make America Great Again objective. Donald Trump ran for the presidency based on several overriding principles that it promoted as benefiting the American people, including an end to pointless wars and massive cut in the federal budget to eliminate useless programs and jobs. That did a little beyond providing employment for political appointees. Trump made a good start working with Elon Musk to eliminate programs and jobs, but that effort soon petered out as the special interests, both on federal and state levels, began to push back, demanding the access and services that they had become accustomed to. To be sure, Trump has taken steps to empower himself and his appointees as the final arbiters of the legality of anything his administration does. An executive order he signed in February says the president and the attorney general's opinion on questions of law are controlling on all employees and the conduct of their official duties. No employee of the executive branch acting in the official capacity may advance an interpretation of the law as a position of the United States that contravenes the president or the attorney general's opinion on a matter of law. Since that time, that justification has been used to summarily fire officials at both senior and mid-levels, but it has not shifted the balance inside the government, even if the ongoing shutdown has reduced both employment levels and expenditures on salaries and benefits. The doctrine of virtually unlimited presidential prerogative to include ordering murders advanced by Trump has meant that the normal bureaucratic and constitutional checks and balances no longer work. This is the best illustrated by the continuation of unnecessary wars in Ukraine and Gaza that both Congress and a significant part of the media support in spite of the huge downside and popular disapproval. From within administration, senior officials who were singularly unqualified for the jobs they were holding were able to push their own agendas without any real understanding coming from singularly ignorant president. The raging war for no or all the wrong reasons is best exemplified by the war against the so-called narco traffickers that is being waged in the Caribbean Sea and Pacific Ocean. Focus on enemy regimes in Venezuela and Colombia, a significant build-up of U.S. forces in the Caribbean to include America's largest aircraft carrier, suggests that Trump's warning regarding a possible ground action about to commence with the tax on military and foreign government sites. Trump explained in a press conference how the sea drugs coming in are 5% of what they were a year ago. So now they're coming in by land. The land is going to be next. And the necessary military action might quite possibly be an intervention that really is aimed at toppling Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. It's reported that Maduro has already survived multiple overt and covert attempts by the United States to replace him. But this will be the first employment of the so-called U.S. military boots on the ground to bring him down. Trump's animosity towards Venezuela in particular goes back to the president's first term in office, but it does not necessarily have to morph into today's all-out threats of aggression. Early on, there was some hope that the White House would come to an understanding with Maduro. Among Trump's first foreign policy initiatives in 2015 was a dispatch of a special envoy, Rick Grenell, a broker, a modus vivendi with the Caracas regime. Under the deal, Chevron will continue to export Venezuelan crude stateside, where it would be redefined by the way of the renewal of Joe Biden-era oil license. Caracas also agreed to accept deportation flights to its citizens due to the suspension of the temporary protected status granted an estimated 350,000 Venezuelan expatriates who are now in the United States. The administration thereby had made good on two of its campaign pledges, boosting the supply of fossil fuels and deporting migrants. Trump acknowledged the agreement, saying Maduro offered everything. You know why? Because he doesn't give a F around. He doesn't want to F around with the United States. Then everything came apart under pressure emanating from the politically powerful Cuban community in Miami, which threatened to oppose Trump legislation across the board if the intense pressure on leftist regimes in Latin America were not restored. Well, I'll tell you folks in the community with this, with all due respect and good faith, you get your asses out there and fight, okay? So that's how I got to look at it. The world does not revolve around you. And don't get me wrong, there's some awesome Cuban people out there too. And I'm not crazy about totalitarianism in those regions as well. But one thing got to be for sure, the people in Venezuela need to fight back. And Jose Nino agrees without U.S. intervention. And I'll continue on here. All right, let me just check this out. The current military buildup and the routine killing on seamen on small boats in international waters without any constitutional mandate, congressional declaration of war, or even evidence of intended wrongdoing follow the subsequent hardening of positions by Trump. Its audacity is remarkable and has shocked observers all along the political spectrum. American Secretary of War Pete Hegseth put it somewhat differently, promising a forever war against drugs. Our generation spent the better part of the 2 decades hunting all Al-Qaeda, hunting ISIS. As the president said, this is the ISIS, this is the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere. Our message to these foreign terrorist organizations is that we will treat you like we treated Al-Qaeda. We will kill you. Oh, I'm just wondering if there's rogue elements in the CIA are involved in this too, right? Well, we're gonna treat you with respect. Watching insiders believe that the aggression has largely been justified and advanced through the good graces of Marco Rubio, Glamour Boy himself, who now holds the position of Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. National Security Advisor? What? That's the first time I heard that. I'm sorry. Good grief. Got Glamour Boys. Dude, got both positions. That's pretty dangerous, man. Florida product of a family that fled Fidel Castro's Cuba and brought it hardline sentiments about left-wing government, which at the time proliferate in Latin America. For Rubio, confrontation and with elimination of such governments has long been a prime projector for him and for his extremely conservative supporters, mostly situated in Miami. He has now found himself well placed to go after the folks to America's South and that he considers to be enemies, even though those countries do not realistically threaten the United States. Well, if that's true, Glamour Boy, you go over there and go on the front line and fight and make. I know you're going to bring your mirror. Go, do I look pretty for this event? I'll continue on here. In the case of Venezuela, the current number one target, the country does not even figure as a serious during drug exporter, a contrary conclusion which comes from the U.S. intelligence community, which has assessed that little to none of the fentanyl traffic to the United States is being produced in Venezuela, despite recent claims from the Trump administration. Beyond that, many of the boats targeted for strikes by the Trump administration did not even have the requisite gasoline or motor capacity to reached the U.S. coastal waters, dramatically undercutting claims by Hegseth. After his appointment as Secretary of State, Rubio focused on persuading MAGA conservatives and other right-wing political fringe factions, which have been seeking anti-drug cartel wars in Mexico, to redirect toward Venezuela. In addition, Rubio found numerous allies amongst his colleagues within the administration, notably the Florida natives that surround the president and who are well versed on the narrative of Venezuelan narco-terrorism. They include Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and Deputy Chief Staff Taylor Budowich. Rubio and his friends have clearly persuaded the president, as well as the important policymaker Stephen Miller, that removing Maduro, whom U.S. officials have characterized as an illegitimate leader, will not only halt drug flows, will also enable further deportations by installing the subservient Venezuelan opposition. And while Maduro has allegedly offered to hand over all the Venezuelan resources to Washington, to the Hawks, no doubt argue that the opposition, once in power, would be better trusted to hand over the country's oil anyway. In October, Trump ordered Grenell to suspend further negotiations with Caracas. Some observers note that invading Venezuela to bring about regime change might well bring complete collapse in the government and the society, would have major implications regionally, generating major new flows of refugees and bringing oil production to a halt. It is even possible that radical leftist groups behind Maduro, flaunting their Bolivarian credentials, might come out on top, but it's not likely that Rubio and his friends are concerned about those possibilities, as they believe that it comes into a fight, they will win. Indeed, some would disagree, arguing that cutting a new deal with Maduro that substantially benefits U.S. interests might be turned out a better option than going to war. Oh my goodness. Remember, folks, the more things change, the more it stays the same, right? Oh my. What can we say about that? It's just totally lackadaisical, you can say. Laconianism 101. And I can say this, hey, Donald Trump is just a symptom. His administration is the symptom, not the disease. It's been going on for a very long time. You can thank Abraham Lincoln for that and his cohorts with the illegal war against the South, the Confederate States of America. They call it civil to sugarcoat everything. And it's going on and on and on. Even happened with Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and even Barack Obama, which some people claim, my forever president. I will wake up in the morning saying, God bless the Patriot Act. And what's interesting, because what does Barack Obama and Donald Trump have in common? They highly praise Abraham Lincoln. Oh, yeah. I love centralization, right, folks? They say, I love to be told what to do, just like the commies out there. And one other thing as well about Venezuela, it is a police state. Okay? You know why? Because Article 328 of their their Constitution reads, I'm paraphrasing, that no military weapons allowed to the people. So they're a gun-free zone, okay, as long as you're buddies with them. So you can say, I love them too? Absolutely not. Because they believe they should serve them. The people should serve their government. That's called the dangers of statism, religion. Okay, so I just really just dawns on me from time to time. And I know Venezuela sits on $14.7 trillion in natural riches. That's what David Walker has to say about that. I'm just scrolling down, see what else I can find. on this issue, but it's good. I always I can see this here. I'm just gonna let me see what else I can look at. Probably do two more. Yeah, I'll do two more on this. So got two more articles I'm gonna put on here. And this one here came from under the same thing on foreign intervention. Only economic collapse can stop U.S. warmongering is by Antonius J. Patrick. Can there be a silver lining from a U.S. Treasury report that the national debt has grown in just 2 months from $37 trillion to $38 trillion, and that interest on the debt is running at $1 trillion a year, making it the fastest growing category in the federal budget economically, unless one is part of the Trump administration or is one of the president's sycophants in the financial press. Few believe that there will be a good outcome for American society from the current Profitgate level of federal spending. This, of course, does not take him into account the staggering amount of private debt that has been accumulated in student loans, credit cards, car loans by Americans. Despite the incomprehensible amount of U.S. debt, the Trump administration continues its out-of-control spending. Just recently, it has provided Argentina with a $20 billion swap line bailout to support the peso, which is Libertarian President Javier Milei was supposed to stabilize with his much talk about, but never implemented chainsaw cuts to spending. There's also reports that Trump is considering a forgiveness of student loans, as did Joe Biden. Oh, so these are claims he can say. U.S. spending will increase further as it's preparing for an armed conflict with Venezuela and a re-engagement of the Iran-Israel war, where America provided intelligence and missile interception protection for the Israelis in June. With the massive collapse of the U.S. economy is a near mathematical certainty. At some point, there are negative economic effects in the meantime. Debts of this magnitude have to be financed through inflation, money printing. Since tax revenues cannot cover the cost of spending, the government has engaged in borrowing by issuing bonds which are then bought by the Federal Reserve. The Fed does this by simply printing money out of thin air. Now, by the stroke of the computer key, the new money eventually finds its way into the economy, pushing up prices. The monetary arrangement known as debt monetization can go on for as long before a crisis occurs, which is what took place in 2008 when the subprime mortgage market blew up, igniting the global financial crisis, GFC. The panic in the subprime market was a result of the Fed's easy monetary policy of the early and mid-2000s, which kept interest rates artificially low, generating a bubble in the housing market. This time, the most likely and far more dangerous flashpoints will be a sovereign debt crisis, which will end the dollar's role as a world reserve currency. The indication that such a scenario may not be far off is the extraordinary rise in the gold and silver prices and the record pace that central banks are buying gold. A removal of America's privileged status holder of the world's reserve currency will be devastating effects on the economy. It could make the GFC look like a financial hiccup. The United States has been able to maintain its standard of living, not through its industrial and manufacturing capacity, which has been on a decline over the last decades, but from dollar's dominance. While a dollar collapse would plunge the American economy into a hyperinflationary depression, it would also have the ramifications on the nation's foreign policy. Up until now, the United States has been able to wage war, interfere in internal affairs for foreign nations, and conduct covert regime change operations around the world because it has some means, wealth to do so. A collapse in the economy similar to what happened to the British Empire after World War II would mean that the United States would simply have to abandon its position as a sole superpower. Whether a nation has wherewithal or not, foreign policy as well as domestic affairs are ultimately based on ideology. American foreign policy in its early years was largely non-interventionist and based to an anti-status mentality. This collective mindset was abandoned by the time of the Spanish-American War after the fall of the Soviet Union, and the nation's foreign affairs have been conducted in line with the Wolfowitz doctrine of not allowing any challenge to its hegemony. Paul Craig Roberts explained in a October 26th article, the doctrine allied with money interests is the basis for Washington's hostility toward Russia. The Wolfowitz doctrine and the profits of war are the obstacles to ending the root cause of the conflict. The principle behind the countless interventions is based on the idea of power, which America has the means to bring, in many cases, to its murderous fruition. There is no indication that the forces that conduct foreign policy will readopt the ideology of the founders of the nation who spoke of the peaceful coexistence, trade, and abstaining from entangling alliances. While America will not likely face a catastrophic military defeat, the only event that will end its status as world hegemon will be an economic collapse. This incredible societal misery that will ensue from the default of the mountainous level of national debt will be retribution and part of for decades of death, destruction that the U.S. government has inflicted on the peoples of planet Earth. Yeah, so I can't argue with that because George Washington and Thomas Jefferson warned us about this and a few others. Always believe in what do you call it? Commerce to all, entanglements to none. I'm just paraphrasing. A lot of folks out there in the public school, in the government school systems, even some professors, they don't want to teach you that. Now you got the technology, learn from it. And I recommend folks too about foreign policy. Good book to read is by Chalmers Johnson, I think his name was. Yeah, Chalmers Johnson. Blowback. That was a very good book. And it's not that long, but it tells you what happened in Okinawa, Iran, a few other places that blew back in their faces when it comes to foreign policy. And you can say 9/11 was part of that, but my honest opinion and what I read and studied and observed on the results is still a global order, but you can use foreign policy in that as well out of fairness. And we got to stop. The United States needs to stop intervening on global affairs. We got to tell foreign lobbyists where to go, tell them to stick it. Doesn't matter where they come from. Because John Jay warns about that too, and the dangers of foreign powers and influences. And even Glenn Boy Rubio and many other people out there. Hey, you want to fight? Go out there yourselves. I'm sick of all this garbage. I think I lied here. I maybe do a couple more. I see a couple of things here. Oh, by the way, Christian faces genocide from Nigerian warlords. That's been a problem there for a very long time. As I remember the time with people talking about South Africa, no one cared about Nigeria, right? Even Uganda, for goodness sakes. But this is here about the surveillance state. Congressmen targeted by Arctic frost can make sure it doesn't happen again, is what Donald Jeffries has to say. In 2012, NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden revealed our government has engaged in mass surveillance of an unwitting U.S. population, reflecting a mindset that still exists in Washington. Tulsi Gabbard was grilled by both Democrats and Republicans during her confirmation hearings in an effort to get her to say that Snowden was a traitor. Republican Senate leaders at the time, including 2012 presidential nominee John McCain and Speaker of the House John Boehner, that's exactly how they pronounce it, Boehner, were visually opposed to Snowden's disclosure of classified information. They call him Boehner called Snowden a traitor and cited the usual concerns about national security. McCain predictably blasted Snowden for violating his oath of office and was increasing that so many young people viewed him as a hero. Oh my goodness. Oh, but John McCain and John Boner were courageous people. Yes. They were oath breakers too, folks. And I always say John McCain was a proud bend over Bob to the one world order. Yeah, how about the Songbird confession, the Songbird ordeal that the National Archives, Security Archives released? I did a show on that many years ago. And of course, he supported the Patriot Act, and he was one big police state hack. And even Boner, he was another clown. Come on. Bunch of posers, man. And I know McCain is dead. I don't wish him ill, but please. I just mock him. I just call him insane McCain. Got no grassroots nor any money, and the New World Order his butt buddy. And I digress. All right, so I'll continue on here. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Senator Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, along with Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, confronted Senator Marco Rubio from Florida for his support in bulk collection of private metadata. Donald Trump would later appoint Rubio as the Secretary of State, was more extreme than most other Republicans, even suggest that Snowden should be executed for treason. Later, he would routine Trumpian style tease many civil libertarians by hinting that he might pardon Snowden. Republicans have fallen all over themselves to enthusiastically endorse the unconstitutional Patriot Act of after 9/11, and this included the ominous Section 215, which allowed warrantless wiretapping, mass surveillance, phone records, and travel, among other things. Paul's general opposition to surveillance of citizens has never been shared by many in either major political party. Last year, Congressmen reauthorized Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, with bipartisan support. Over the objections of civil libertarians, reauthorization was praised by both Senator Party leader Chuck Schumer, Pinocchio, and John Cornyn from Texas. Yeah, Pinocchio, Chuck Schumer. He loves the Bill of Rights. Whoop! I'll continue on here. This was in spite of the fact that, as Reuters reported in 2020, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit said the warrantless telephone dragnet that secretly collected millions of Americans' telephone records violated Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and may well have been unconstitutional. It is unconstitutional. Shut up. Further vindicating the much maligned Snowden was evidence that the NSA was secretly building a vast database of U.S. telephone records, the who, the how, the when, and where the millions of mobile calls was first and arguably the most explosive of the Snowden revelations, published by the Guardian newspaper in 2013. And perhaps just an irony, members of the Senate and the House have discovered that they themselves were the victims of the same secret surveillance they had supported when it does on their constituents. Earlier this month, the Senate Judiciary Committee revealed an explosive FBI document obtained by Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa, revealed the FBI targeted 8 Republican senators' personal cell phones for trolling data, information collected from electronic toll collecting, including traffic volume, revenue, and trip details as part of its Arctic Frost investigation. One Republican member of the House was also impacted. The Arctic Frost investigation formed the basis of Jack Smith's elector case against Trump. According to the Senate Judiciary Committee, records Grassley made public last month show the FBI also placed 92 Republican-linked individuals and Republican groups, such as Charlie Kirk's Turning Point, under Arctic Frost's investigative scope. Matthew Caveson, the director of the Cato Institute Project on Criminal Justice, noted that the very senators who were spied on can ensure that this intrusion does not happen to them or their fellow Americans again. Even if the Supreme Court reads the Fourth Amendment too narrowly, Congress can pass a statute requiring the FBI to get a warrant before monitoring call information. Trump's comments on the Arctic Frost disclosure revolved typically around him. He lashed out at Smith, the hopelessly biased prosecutor, declaring deranged Jack Smith got caught with his hands in the cookie jar, a real sleaze bag. Operation Arctic Frost, which was headed by Smith, was an attempt by clearly partisan forces to find criminality in the protest by Trump and his allies regarding the 2020 election. Grassley called the Arctic Frost revelations worse than Watergate. FBI Director Kash Patel stated, as a result of our latest disclosure about the baseless monitoring members of Congress by the prior leadership team of the FBI, we have already taken the following actions. We terminate employees, we abolished the weaponized CR-15 squad, and we initiated an ongoing investigation with more accountability measures ahead. Well, don't just say, do. If there's arrest and so forth for treason, don't talk about it, make it happen. No more small talk is pathetic. And I'll continue on. Considering the Patel opposed Trump's pardoning of January 6th defendants who had attacked the law enforcement, it's difficult to have confidence that the likes of Smith, former FBI Director Christopher Wray, and others will be prosecuted. Hopefully, however, the fact that they were targeted themselves will cause all Republicans to pause before supporting America's gargantuan intelligence industrial complex. So, unquestionably, as a great Lord Action said long ago, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Oh my goodness, what can we say about that? Ain't it great, folks? It's just one of those things you always got to look at. That's why I get a big kick out of these people out there. Like, hey, liberty for me, but none for thee. But what happens to them, they'll be screaming like a banshee in heat. This is why, folks, you never trust the government, regardless who's in there. I know I stressed this and harped this multiple times, but you folks out there, even on social media, oh yeah, my team blue's in there. Yeah, when they get violent, they'll be screaming. They'll be, oh, I voted for you. How dare you do that? How pathetic, you know? I lied. I'm going to do one more thing here. It's on gun rights, by the way. Bondi accused of creating gun registry, Donald Jeffries wrote here. Attorney General Pam Bondi entered office with a spotty track record in the eyes of many conservatives. While serving as Florida Attorney General, she was instrumental for pushing for the prosecution of George Zimmerman as a final counter with Trayvon Martin. She has supported red flag laws, which clearly infringe on the Second Amendment rights. And remember, under the Florida Constitution, it was considered an impairing contract. Prohibited laws are illegal under Article 1, Section 10 of the Florida Constitution. Okay? Boom. I'll continue on. As General Attorney, Bondi has treated Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act passed in 2021 as much as the Biden administration did. Bondi's Justice Department has declared that Missouri is not immune to federal gun laws and has, in fact, tried to strike down the act completely. Hey, when the ginos know best, they turn to crap, right? Governmental figurehead right there. So a Gino sympathizer. You know, is not being anti-Jew, but Jew in name only. So I'll let you folks know. I say that in good faith, okay? I don't support the synagogue of Satan, which Pam Bondi does, allegedly. I'll continue on here. Let me see. It has been a typical both Trump administrations. His high-ranking appointee is acting contrary to his often expressed views and his executive order instructing federal agents to protect Second Amendment rights. The quote, news and commentary website Zero Hedge, if the Trump administration is to fulfill its pledge of being the most pro-Second Amendment in history, that requires more than speeches. It requires ensuring that the Department of Justice under Pam Bondi does not undercut states when they act to safeguard constitutional rights on Missouri's SAPA that responsibly has not yet been met. Well, it's called the 10th Amendment. If all you folks out there, you study the history of Prohibition, the 18th Amendment, why it got repealed, nullification, 10th Amendment. That was the whole thing about alcohol sales were considered illegal in America, in these United States. And Maryland, believe it or not, spearheaded the nullification because they say it was a 9th Amendment conflict. I'll continue on. Several gun rights groups have now mounted a campaign demanding that Pam Bondi be fired. They allege that in addition to her long track record of being supportive of gun control measures, she ordered gun membership lists to be turned over to the government. Hey, if you don't like that, move to Israel, Pan. Go to Israel and lick the boots of Benjamin Netanyahu, okay? I'll continue on. And another thing, too, folks, about the gun registry, I'll say this. Look up anyone that filed a form 4473. To me, that's considered gun registration. I'll continue on. A senior official in the Justice Department predictably called this fake news. In the recent Reeves versus ATF case, a U.S. District Court judge, at the behest of the Trump's Justice Department, ordered gun groups like the Second Amendment Foundation and Firearm Policy Committee to hand over a verified list of their members dating back to November 2020. Bondi managed to convince the court that the names were necessary. The Second Amendment Foundation angrily filed a motion to defend, declaring SAF has never and will never provide the government's list of our members. So, Pam Bondi, I have a question for you. Where's your I Love Mao Tse-tung or Fidel Castro button? You should be wearing that with that statement, right? Gun Owners of America, GOA, stated on social media, this is just another illegal, unconstitutional registry of gun owners in the making. GOA blamed Bondi directly. Pravda, which ought to know gun confiscation when it sees it reported. The Trump current government, through Pam Bondi, just convinced a federal judge to force a gun rights group to hand over its membership list. That's a gun registry. No law, no vote, just betrayal from within. National Rifle Association President David Keene framed this issue in 2013. Registry of people who own firearms, citizens who've broken no law, who are not prohibited from owning firearms, would be very dangerous because it can easily result confiscation of those firearms. MAGA loyalists have the ability to forget Donald Trump's consistent anti-Second Amendment record. It wasn't Barack Obama or Joe Biden who said, take the guns first, go through due process second. After the 2018 shooting at Parkland High School, which we all know is a firearm-free zone, and just to let you know, in Broward County, Ordinance 18-96, they had a 5-business-day waiting period when Nicholas Cruz got the firearms. So the whole thing is, waiting periods does not guarantee crime, the diffuse crime. I continue on. Trump joined with Democrats to push a series of typical liberal measures like raising the age of 21 to purchase a rifle, expanding background checks, and banning bump stocks with or without Congress. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, with two other odious senators, Christine Sinema, Democrat from Arizona, and Tom Tillis, Republican from North Carolina, co-sponsored the Threat Assessment Prevention and Safety Acts of 2019 as TAPS, which empowered law enforcement to give a threat assessment to everyone, even children, to stop dangerous individuals before they commit an act of violence. Thought crime. This brings to the mind seamlessly far-fetched scenario, the envisioned film Minority Report. It's pretty easy to picture conspiracy theorists and other modern thought criminals as a threat under such an Orwellian program. The corresponding version of the TAPS Act in the House singles out mass casualty attacks as a threat to public safety that requires a proactive solution. In order to prevent future tragedies, given her history, it is difficult to have much confidence in the Second Amendment task force set up by Bondi and the Justice Department. Bondi noted, for too long, the Second Amendment, which establishes the fundamental individual right of Americans to keep and bear arms, has been treated as a second-class right. No more. On another seemingly positive note, FBI Director Kash Patel commented on the tyrannical zero-tolerance policy on the ATF, announcing today's repeal of the zero-tolerance policy and the comprehensive review of stabilizing brace and regulations and the definition of engage in the business makes a pivotal step toward and restoring fairness and clarity in firearms regulations. We are committed to working with all stakeholders to ensure our policies are balanced, constitutional, and protective of Americans' Second Amendment rights. Bondi's justice system has defended the National Firearms Act of 1934. It restricted suppressors, which gun rights groups believe are protected under the Second Amendment. Overall, neither Bondi nor Trump have a good track record here. Well. So, I gotta say, it is interesting. And Ken New Bird, I guess called. Thank you for checking in. I just really wonder when all these individuals out here love to go and do their own thing. And I remember all that time with Bondi. This is why, folks, you never trust the government. And to come to registration and licensing and all that, I recommend folks to check out a documentary by the JPFO called Innocence Betrayed. You probably can find it at the archive.org. If not, order it. Go to jpfo.org. I'm not going to be putting that out there or releasing that because many folks out there can actually check it out for themselves. Well, Pam Bondi, based on those actions, is considered treason. You treat her like the rest of the clowns, like Merrick Garland. They think alike. They look, think, and smell like real crappy. Oh, man. It's like one of those things, right? So the truth of the matter is, my friends, we always got to look at things a lot more further than what they tell you. So I'm sorry about that. I say this: eternal vigilance is a key to liberty. Thomas Jefferson. Well, wow. It's almost an hour and a half. And I'm going to end this. And that will be it. I thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, and all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. You can hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash app /local number 3. I'll hit those articles I read, point them out. If you want to read it, be a subscriber, and you support a good American newspaper. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. May your guardian spirits be with you.